Hey there. So I wanted to share what my perfect tallow balm would be. I have been making tallow products for over 5 years now, and most of the tallow balms you see on the market, including the ones that I offer, are mainly a tallow base with some oils, and that's it. Some people will add arrowroot powder to try and combat the greasiness, but it doesn't really work super well. And now that I have been formulating more in depth for the last few years, I was thinking if I were to redo my tallow balm, I could make it so much better than the original version and give it a better user experience, basically making it the ultimate tallow butter. The trick would be trying to sell it because much of the audience using tallow balms are in the natural non toxic category, and anything that is difficult to pronounce might be toxic, right? Well, that's not true, but that is the battle or the challenge of trying to sell to that specific customer base. But the other side of that would be selling to a customer base that isn't as concerned about more processed ingredients, but still interested in using tallow. But that doesn't matter because I'm not going to be selling this, but these are my thoughts when I was writing this formula out. So when I came up with this formula, I realized there are several other ingredients that can be added to a tallow whip or even a shea butter whip to try and make it less greasy and dry faster on the skin. So that's what we're going to do today, using esters and alcohols. Esters are chemical compounds that are formed from the reaction of acid with alcohol, during which both substances combine with the release of a water molecule. In cosmetics, mainly esters of higher fatty acids with alcohols are used, which are odorless and they are oily substances, and they're used as emollients, solvents, and stabilizers. They're amazing and super lightweight and dry really quickly, so that made them a good choice for this formula. There's all different kinds of esters you can choose with different molecular weights. The one we used today was C1215 alkyl benzoate, which you can find at most suppliers. It has a really dry skin feel. We also decided to use cetyl esters, which are solid waxy flakes similar to cetyl alcohol, but it's a wax mixture of alcohol and saturated acids, so it's lighter than other fatty alcohols. So it's not going to harden our butter, but it's going to give us a more glossy, soft skin feel. And we added behenyl alcohol to this in a smaller amount for its matte, powdery-like skin feel. I also use caprylic capric triglycerides, which are, or maybe it's capric caprylic, I'm not sure, which are another super lightweight oil with a drier skin feel. So by changing out the regular oil portion that we would normally use in our tallow and adding these kinds of ingredients, we can somewhat manipulate the heaviness and the greasiness of the final product. So here is the full formula. We're going to do 64% tallow, 10% cetyl esters, 15% C1215 alkyl benzoate esters, 4% capric caprylic triglycerides, and 5% behenyl alcohol, and 1% vitamin E, and 1% for the fragrance oil. You can obviously omit this if you want, but I like a little bit of fragrance oils in mine. This tallow body butter actually came out to be the perfect texture, and you're going to see that here in a minute. Okay, so I did a very small batch of this because I didn't want to waste a ton of ingredients. So I only did 90 grams, and here are the weights for that. And we're pretty much going to add everything in one bowl. It's really easy. So we're going to start with our tallow, which is 58.5 grams. Then we're going to add our cetyl esters at 9 grams. Now we're going to add our C1215 alkyl benzoate esters, and then our capric caprylic triglycerides, and lastly our behenyl alcohol. We aren't going to add our vitamin E or fragrance oil until the cool down phase. Now we're going to get our double broiler ready and turn it on, and we're going to put our stainless steel bowl in the water, and we're going to heat this until it's fully melted. Once everything is melted, we're going to take it off the heat and let it cool. While it's cooling, we're going to stir it frequently. You don't have to put this in the freezer to cool it or the fridge. The other ingredients are going to help it and keep it from forming those little granules you'll often get with a high percentage of tallow, which is the fatty acids cooling at different temperatures. So as long as we're stirring it often while it's cooling, it should cool evenly and fast. And like I said a minute ago, with the bihenyl and the acetyl esters, it really does make it super easy to cool it at room temperature without getting the graininess that you often get with tallow body butters. I know that's a pain point for a lot of people. It is for me. I would say I've mastered it at this point, and maybe I'll talk about it here on this channel at some point, but we can avoid that with these extra ingredients we're adding in, and it makes it way more easier to get a smooth, creamy texture. So you can see it's starting to solidify, which is good. This is what we want. So I'm going to stir it until it's pretty thickened up and hardening on the sides, and then I'm going to just let it sit for a little bit until it's fully solidified. And once that's solid, you can take your hand mixer and start mixing it up and putting some air into it. I'm also going to add our vitamin E and fragrance oil at this point. And you don't have to add vitamin E either, but it does help the oils and the tallow stay fresher longer. It's just a habit at this point of adding vitamin E to everything. So once that's nice and fluffy, we're going to try this out on ourselves. The texture is really nice. It's very silky and powdery on the skin, and it's noticeably way less greasy, and it rubs in really quickly. And honestly, it doesn't even feel like a tallow body butter or a tallow balm. I'm pretty impressed with the final result. If I didn't know this was a tallow balm, I would have never guessed it was, as it doesn't have the heaviness that they all usually have. I think this is a winning formula, and I think all my natural tallow formulators on here should look into trying this formula out. It's really versatile too. I hope you liked it. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments. If you want to learn more about tallow, this month of October on my Patreon, we are doing all things tallow and delving into the natural formulating side with it, which includes infusing it with herbs, rendering it, making soap with tallow, and on the business side, starting a tallow business and the products you should have with that, and just tips about starting a tallow business since it's so popular these days. Tallow is an amazing, versatile ingredient, and I love using it in many different kinds of formulas. There's really no end to what you can do with it. So join my Patreon to unlock all the deep dives and perks of formulating and running a small skincare business. Enter any formula suggestions down below. I already have a list going, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.